The Executive Department. Under the 1987 Constitution, Article 7, Section 1, the executive power shall be vested in the President of the Philippines. It is generally defined as the power to enforce and administer the laws. It is the power of carrying the laws into practical operation and enforcing their due observance. Corollary to the power of control, the President also has the duty of supervising the enforcement of laws for the maintenance of general peace and public order. Thus, he is granted administrative power over bureaus and offices under his control to enable him to discharge his duties effectively. Qualifications, election, and term of the President and Vice President. This is under Section 234 of the Constitution. No person may be elected as President unless he is a natural-born citizen of the Philippines, a registered voter, able to read and write, at least 40 years of age on the day of the election, and a resident of the Philippines for at least 10 years immediately preceding such election. There shall be a Vice President who shall have the same qualifications and term of office and be elected with and all the same manner as the President. He may be removed from office in the same manner as the President, that is, by impeachment. The President may be appointed as a member of the Cabinet, and such appointment requires no confirmation from the Commission on Appointments. The President and the Vice President shall be elected by direct vote of the people for a term of 6 years, which shall begin at noon of the 30th day of June, following the day of the election, and shall end at noon of the same day, 6 years thereafter. The President shall not be eligible for any re-election. No person who has succeeded as President and has served for such for more than 4 years shall be qualified for the election to the same office at the same time, and no President shall serve for more than 2 successive terms. Voluntary renunciation of the office for any length of time shall not be considered as an interruption in the continuity of the service for the full term for which he was elected. Qualifications again, for the President and Vice President, they must be a natural-born citizen of the Philippines, a registered voter, able to read and write, at least 40 years of age at the day of the election, and a resident of the Philippines for at least 10 years immediately preceding such election. Election. There can be regular election on the second Monday of May. The National Board of Canvassers for the President and the Vice President is the Congress. Returns shall be transmitted to the Congress directed to the Senate President. In a joint public session not later than 30 days after the election date, returns to be opened in the presence of the Senate and the House of Representatives in a joint session. The Congress, upon determination of the authenticity and due execution, shall canvass the votes. Persons having the highest number of votes shall be proclaimed elected, and in case of tie, one will be chosen by the vote of majority of all the members of both houses of Congress voting separately. The jurisprudence on canvassing. The Congress may validly delegate the initial determination of the authenticity and due execution of the certificates of canvass to a joint congressional committee composed of the members of both houses. Even after Congress has adjourned its regular session, it may continue to perform this constitutional duty of canvassing the presidential and vice presidential election results without need of any call for a special session by the President. Only when the Board of Canvassers has completed its functions is it rendered functus officio. The Supreme Court as the PET, or the Presidential Electoral Tribunal. The Supreme Court, sitting en banc, shall be the sole judge of all contests relating to the election, returns, and qualifications of the President or Vice President, and may promulgate its own rules for the purpose. The term of office is 6 years, which shall begin at the noon of 30th day of June following the day of the election, and shall end at noon of the same day 6 years thereafter. Note that the President is not eligible for any re-election, and no person who has succeeded as a President and has served as such for more than 4 years shall be qualified for election to the same office at any time. Succeeded as President refers to the Vice President as automatic successor or elected President by virtue of special election and serves the unexpired term of the President. Ineligible to run for president if he has served for more than 4 years. The acting president is not included, as an acting president does not succeed to the office of the president. Presidential immunity. The president is immune from suit from being brought to court during the period of his incumbency and tenure. The reason is to assure that the president is free to exercise his presidential duties and responsibilities without any hindrance or distraction. And who may invoke this? The privilege of immunity can only be invoked by the president by virtue of the office and not by any other person on behalf of the president. This presidential immunity does not apply to vice presidents. The rules on immunity during tenure. The president is immune from suit during his tenure. An impeachment complaint may be filed against him during his tenure. The president may not be prevented from instituting suits. There is nothing in our laws that would prevent the president from waiving this privilege. He may shed the protection afforded by the privilege. And the heads of the departments cannot invoke this presidential immunity even if they are alter egos of the president. The executive privilege refers to the power of the president and high-level executive branch officers to withhold certain types of information from Congress, courts, and ultimately the public. And who may invoke this privilege? The president. Being an extraordinary power, the privilege must be wielded only by the highest official in the executive department. Thus, the president may not authorize her subordinates to exercise such power. Who else? The executive secretary, upon proper authorization from the president, must state the authority is by order of the president, which means he personally consulted with the president. Requisites for a valid invocation of a privilege. There must be a formal claim of privilege, and the claim has specific designation and description of the documents within its scope, and with the precise and certain reasons for preserving their confidentiality. The reason for that is without this specificity, it is impossible for the court to analyze the claim short of disclosure of the very thing sought to be protected. Note that the Congress, however, must not require the executive to state the reasons for the claim with such particularity as to compel disclosure of the information which the privilege is meant to protect. The scope, it covers conversations and correspondences to enable the president and those who assist him to freely explore alternatives in the process of shaping policies and making decisions, and to do so in a way many would be unwilling to express except privately. It likewise covers military, diplomatic, and other national security matters which, in the interest of national security, should not be divulged. It includes information between intergovernment agencies prior to the conclusion of treaties and executive agreements, discussions in closed-door cabinet meetings, and matters affecting national security and public order. Limitations on executive privilege. A claim for executive privilege is subject to balancing against other interests. Simply put, confidentiality in executive privilege is not absolutely protected by the Constitution. Neither the doctrine of separation of powers nor the need for confidentiality of high-level communications can sustain an absolute unqualified presidential privilege of immunity from judicial process under all circumstances. The powers of the President. The general executive and administrative powers. The President's power to conduct investigations to aid him in ensuring the faithful execution of the laws is inherent in the President's power as a chief executive. The purpose of allowing ad hoc investigation bodies to exist is to allow an inquiry into the matters which the President is entitled to know so that he can be properly advised and guided in the performance of his duties relative to the execution and enforcement of the laws of the land. Faithful execution clause or take care clause. It refers to the power of the president to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. Administrative powers. It refers to the power concerned with the work of applying policies and enforcing orders as determined by proper governmental organs. It enables the president to fix a uniform standard administrative efficiency and check the official conduct of his agents. To this end, he can issue administrative orders, rules, and regulations. The power of appointment. The appointing power of the President is executive in nature. While Congress and the Constitution in certain cases may prescribe the qualifications for particular offices, the determination who among those who are qualified will be appointed is the President's prerogative. Limitations of the President's power of appointment, those requiring confirmation by the Commission of Appointments. The spouse and relatives by consanguinity or affinity within the fourth civil degree of the President shall not during his tenure be appointed as members of the Constitutional Commissions, Office of the Ombudsman, Secretaries, Undersecretaries, and Chairmen or heads of bureaus or offices, including GOCCs and their subsidiaries. There is also a limitation on midnight appointments where generally it is prohibited except that the President may appoint to fill vacancies in the Supreme Court even during appointment ban, as he is mandated to fill such vacancy within 90 days from the occurrence. For the lower courts, the President shall issue the appointments within 90 days from the submission of the list. The power of removal and suspension. Generally, from the express power of appointment, the President derives the implied power of removal and suspension, except that not all officials appointed by the President are also removable by him, since the Constitution prescribes certain methods for the separation from the public service of such officers. Example, those that can only be removed by impeachment. Note that the President is without any power to remove elected or local officials since the power is exclusively provided in the last paragraph of Section 60 of the Local Government Code. The power and control. The power of control and supervision. This refers to the power of an officer to alter or modify or nullify or set aside what the subordinate has done in the performance of his duties and to substitute one's own judgment for that of a subordinate. The power of general supervision, on the other hand, refers to the power of a superior officer to ensure that the laws are faithfully executed by his subordinates. The doctrine of qualified political agency. Generally, the acts of secretaries of executive departments performed and promulgated in the regular course of business are presumptively the acts of the chief executive, except if the acts are disapproved or reprobated by the President, and if the President is required to act in person by law or by the Constitution, such as executive clemency. The Local Government Code. The power of the President over LGUs is only of general supervision. Thus, he can only interfere in the affairs and activities of a LGU if he finds that the latter acted contrary to law. The President or any of his alter egos cannot interfere in local affairs as long as the concerned LGU acts within the parameters of the law and the Constitution. Emergency powers. In times of war and other national emergency, the Congress may by law authorize the President for a limited period and subject to such restrictions as it may prescribe to exercise powers necessary and proper to carry out a declared national policy. Unless sooner withdrawn by the resolution of the Congress, such powers shall cease upon its next adjournment. There are requisites. There must be a war or national emergency. The delegation must be for a limited period only. The delegation must be subject to such restrictions as the Congress may prescribe, and the emergency powers must be exercised to carry out a national policy declared by Congress. Commander-in-Chief powers. He has the calling out power. The President has the power to call the armed forces of the Philippines to prevent or suppress lawless violence, invasion, or rebellion. The only criterion for the exercise of this power is that whenever it becomes necessary, the Constitution does not require the President to declare a state of rebellion to exercise her calling out power. Section 18, Article 7 grants the President as a Commander-in-Chief a sequence of graduated powers. There is no need for congressional authority to exercise the calling out power of the President, since such power to call out the armed forces to prevent and suppress lawless violence springs from the power vested in the President under Section 18, Article 7 of the Constitution, as in the case where the President did not proclaim a national emergency but only a state of emergency in three places in Mindanao, and she did not act pursuant to any law enacted by Congress that authorized her to exercise extraordinary powers. Declaration of martial law and suspension of the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus, extension and revocation. Martial law is a joint power of the President and the Congress. Thus, the President proclaims or suspension is temporary and is good only for 60 days. He must also, within 48 hours of the proclamation or suspension, report on the reason for his action in person or in writing to the Congress, and both the houses of Congress, if not in session, must jointly convene within 24 hours of the proclamation or suspension for the purpose of reviewing its validity. And the Congress, voting jointly, may revoke or affirm the President's proclamation or suspension, allow their limited effectivity to lapse, or to extend the same if Congress deems warranted. Lifting of proclamation of martial law. It is lifted by the President himself, revoked by the Congress, nullification by the Supreme Court, and by operation of law after 60 days. The writ of habeas corpus refers to an order from the court commanding a detaining officer to inform the court if he has the person in custody and what is his basis in detaining that person. The privilege of writ of habeas corpus refers to that portion of the writ requiring the detaining officer to show cause why he should not be tested. The pardoning power. Generally, it can be granted only after conviction by final judgment, except in amnesty, and it cannot be granted in cases of civil or legislative contempt. It cannot absolve convict of civil liability, it cannot be granted in cases of impeachment, and it cannot be granted for violation of election laws without favorable recommendations from the COMELEC. And lastly, it cannot restore public offices forfeited. Pardon is an act of grace, which exempts the individual on whom it is bestowed from punishment, which the law inflicts for a crime he has committed. As a consequence, pardon granted after conviction frees the individual from all the penalties and legal disabilities and restores him to all his civil rights. But unless expressly grounded on the person's innocence, it cannot bring back lost reputation for honesty, integrity, and fair dealing. The kinds of pardon: absolute, one extended without any conditions, totally extinguishes the criminal liability; and conditional pardon, one under which the convict is required to comply with certain requirements. The forms of executive clemency. Reprieve. It refers to the postponement of sentence to a date certain or stay of execution. Commutation. It refers to the reduction or mitigation of penalty from the death penalty to life imprisonment, remittances, and fines. Commutation is a pardon in form but not in substance. Because it does not affect his guilt, it merely reduces the penalty for the reasons of public interest rather than for the sole benefit of the offender. Remission of fines and forfeitures. It merely prevents the collection of fines and the confiscation or forfeited property. It cannot have the effect of returning property which has been vested in third parties or money already in the public treasury. Probation. It refers to the disposition under which a defendant after conviction and sentence is released subject to the conditions imposed by the court and to the supervision of a probation officer. Parole refers to the release from imprisonment but without full restoration of liberty, as a parolee is still in the custody of law although not in confinement. Amnesty refers to an act of grace concurred by legislature, usually extended to groups of persons who committed political offenses, which puts into oblivion of offense itself. Requisite concurrence of a majority of all the members of the Congress and a previous admission of guilt. The President's power to contract or guarantee foreign loans. Requisites: with the concurrence of the Monetary Board, subject to limitations as may be provided by law, and information on foreign loans obtained or guaranteed shall be made available to the public. The role of Congress in such foreign loans. The President does not need prior approval by Congress, because the Constitution places the power to check the President's power on the Monetary Board, but Congress may provide guidelines and have them enforced through the Monetary Board. Entry into treaties or international agreements, withdrawal and termination. A treaty is an international instrument concluded between the states in written form and governed by international law, whether embodied in a single instrument or a two or more related instrument, and whatever its particular designation. Executive agreements, on the other hand, is entered into by the President and may be entered into without the concurrence of the Senate. Rules on withdrawal from treaties. The President enjoys the leeway in withdrawing from agreements which he or she determines to be contrary to the Constitution or statutes. The President cannot unilaterally withdraw from agreements which were entered into pursuant to congressional imprimatur. The President cannot unilaterally withdraw from international agreements where the Senate concurred and expressly declared that any withdrawal must also be made with its concurrence. Residual powers. The powers of the President cannot be said to be limited only to specific powers enumerated in the Constitution. In other words, executive power is more than the sum of specific powers so enumerated. The residual unstated powers of the President are implicit in and correlative to the paramount duty residing in that office to safeguard and protect the general welfare. As a general rule, all bills must be approved by the President before they become a law, except when the veto of the President is overridden by a two-thirds votes of all the members of the Congress. The President returns the bill with his veto message to the House where the bill originated. The House shall then enter the objections at large in its journal and proceed to reconsider it. If after such reconsideration two-thirds of all the members of such House agree to pass the bill, it shall be sent, together with the objections, to the other House, by which it shall likewise be considered, and if approved by two-thirds of all the members of that House, it shall become a law. The bill lapses into law because of the President's failure to act on the bill within 30 days, and if the bill is passed by special law to elect the President and Vice President. The vacancy in the office of the President. At the beginning of the term, Section 7, Article 7, the President-elect and Vice President-elect shall assume office at the beginning of their terms. Order of succession, Vice President. Senate President as acting President only. Speaker of the House as acting President only. Congress, by law, shall provide the manner in which one who is to act as President shall be selected. If during the term there is vacancy, permanent vacancy during the term, Section 8, Article 7, in case of death, permanent disability, removal from office, or resignation of the President, the Vice President shall become the President to serve the unexpired term. In case of death, permanent disability, removal from office, or resignation of both the President and Vice President, the President of the Senate, or in case of his inability, the Speaker of the House of Representatives shall then act as President until the President or Vice President shall have been elected and qualified. The Congress shall by law provide who shall serve as President in case of death, permanent disability, or resignation of acting President. He shall serve until the President or Vice President shall have been elected and qualified and be subject to the same restrictions of powers and disqualifications as the acting President. Vacancy due to voluntary written declaration of the President. Whenever the President transmits to the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House his written declaration that he is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. First written declaration by majority of the Cabinet. Whenever a majority of all the members of the Cabinet transmit to the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House their written declaration that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, and by determination by Congress of a two-thirds votes of all its members voting separately, acting on the second written declaration by majority of the Cabinet.